All right, joining me now here on the Matthew Filipowicz Show is Zoe Carpenter. Zoe is a reporter for The Nation magazine, which you can find at thenation.com. You can also follow her on Twitter at Zoe S. Carpenter. Zoe, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so Zoe, you had a really interesting piece up at The Nation recently on how inequality is literally killing Americans. It's really, when you think about it, it's really groundbreaking. Tell us all about it.
Sure. So just to start with a little anecdote, there's a neighborhood in Baltimore called Roland Park. And in Roland Park, people live to be 83 on average. And just a few miles away, closer to the center of the city, there's another neighborhood called Upton Druid Heights where people die at an average of 63 years old. So it's a 20-year discrepancy in life expectancy between those two neighborhoods. And when you look at the income gradient, in the neighborhood where people live to be 83, the median income is above $90,000. And where they died 20 years earlier, the median household income is just over $13,000. Huge disparity in unemployment as well. And so those sorts of disparities, the coupling of disparity in life expectancy with income, we're seeing that all across the country. As life expectancy is going down in some areas, as income and employment is going down, in other areas it's rising. And so that sort of coupling of income and life expectancy is very surprising, but it's going to be an increasing problem if we don't get poverty and inequality under control.
Absolutely. And you know, you would think that it's not like super surprising that the rich live longer, but like a 20-year gap, that is a lot. I mean, it's not just like a couple of years. This is a drastically longer life we're looking at as a whole.
Right. These are life expectancies that are on par with other developing countries. We have fallen far behind our industrialized peers in Europe in terms of life expectancy and health outcomes for certain sectors of our population.
Mm-hmm. Well, so let's talk about what are the major causes and results, I guess, that come from inequality that actually factor into this? I mean, is it access to healthcare? Is it preventative medicine? What are the things that actually factor into this gigantic gap?
Well, I think access to healthcare is the one that's most obvious and the one that there's been most attention on lately because of healthcare reform. That's one of the goals of the Affordable Care Act, is to expand access to care. And that's certainly important for people in the working and the middle class. But what's equally important, and I think less noticed or less talked about in the media, is what keeps people healthy to begin with. And that's where we're really seeing these disparities growing. So things like access to affordable, healthy, nutritious food. We know that areas of low income often are food deserts. They don't have a good grocery store with fresh produce. And a lot of the lifestyle choices that people make that lead to poor health outcomes, we think of those as choices, but in fact, people's choices are constrained by the neighborhoods they live in and the amount of money that they have with which to make choices. And so the choices that are available to people of low income tend to be less healthy. And so we see them get sicker. So the lower your income, the sicker you live and the earlier you die.
Yeah, and you know, again, this is something that, you know, I think, you know, most progressives look at inequality and it's like, oh wow, this is horrible, this is unjust, that it's gone, you know, we've all known the stats over the last, you know, decades of how it literally has, you know, risen to, you know, higher than before the Great Depression, essentially. But when you look at, again, the fact that it's not just unjust in the fact of economic fairness, this is actually life and death situations that we're talking about here, and like we have an instance right now where we have Congress debating whether they're going to cut $40 billion from SNAP or $4 billion from SNAP. That the priorities in Washington are still horribly wrong when it comes to this issue.
I think that's exactly right. The social safety net is really important for providing a buffer for poor families against the health effects of poverty. And I think while our peer developed countries also have poverty and they also have economic inequality. Many of them have a more robust social safety net, things like food stamps or healthcare, universal healthcare, and we see those things helping to mitigate some of the poor health effects of poverty, and that explains why they don't have the same discrepancies in life expectancy that we do.